Mankind has always looked to the stars and wondered, are we alone in the universe? Discoveries of possible life on Mars and intriguing new planets have raised the possibility of other life forms. Today, scientists are probing the cosmos, actively seeking a first encounter with alien life. If a discovery reveals it to be intelligent life, our world might never be the same. For centuries, humans have gazed out at the night sky and wondered if somewhere, out there, some other being might be looking back. We may now be on the verge of answering that age-old question. We seem fixated on apocalyptic visions of beings from another world intent on conquering us. They've become imaginary foes who need to be defeated.
Welcome to Earth.
These creatures were once the sole domain of Hollywood, artists and sci-fi writers. But today, scientists are searching for extraterrestrial life. What they may find could be quite different from our fantasies. Spurred on by recent discoveries from Mars and beyond, scientists are pushing technology to new limits. Searching for evidence of other life out in space, they may have already found evidence of alien microbes. Finding intelligent life may be just around the corner. Looking for aliens is no longer considered off the wall in the scientific community. In fact, the search has gained worldwide momentum. In Italy, a major link summit of international scientists gathered at Capri to share their theories on extraterrestrial life. They came from the fields of astronomy, biology, physics and cosmology. Experts the world would turn to in the event of a first alien encounter.
If you look carefully at this representation of a planetesimal or an asteroid-like thing...
Which one will be published? Both.
Here, the normally reserved scientists allow their imaginations to soar.
I would say that mankind has to speak to extraterrestrials with one tongue. If an extraterrestrial craft arrives on Earth, you know, that is even more important because we are not prepared. Not at all.
We never know whether the aliens are actually aiming their transmitters in our direction. What happens if we actually overhear a signal, right? What happens then?
It's a factor of 20 faster.
Much of the excitement revolves around two American astronomers, Paul Butler and Jeffrey Marcy of San Francisco State University. Together, in less than 2 years, these men have discovered more planets than anyone else in history. What we know about life indicates that it formed on a planet. Butler and Marcy's new planets have increased the odds of finding alien life.
The reason we look out there for planets and the reason we look out there for other creatures has all to do about in here, you know? Where do we fit in the universe? What is our role in the universe? You know, we're driven by our only desire to have a deeper understanding of ourselves.
Even with the best telescopes available, astronomers can't see planets beyond our solar system. So Butler and Marcy looked instead for peculiar behavior in the stars.
The real difficulty with trying to find planets orbiting other stars is that stars are 1 billion times brighter than the attendant planets that are going around. Probably the best analogy is to imagine trying to see a firefly at night. But now imagine that a nuclear explosion has just gone off next to that firefly. You're going to have a lot of trouble seeing the firefly itself. We admit right from the start we ain't going to see the planet, so we focus our attention on the star. And that's all we observe, in fact, is the star's light. And we look for the effect of the planet on the star. And in fact, planets exert a gravitational force on the star, and so the star is kind of yanked around as the planet goes around.
At the beach on Capri, Jeff Marcy uses a boulder to demonstrate this celestial dance.
The rock represents the planet, and I represent the star. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So while I'm pulling on the rock's pulling on me, and if you watch me carefully, you see that while I'm swinging the rock is swinging me, making me wobble. And the same exact physics applies to a planet orbiting a star. The planet yanks on the star yanks on the planet, and they do a little dance around each other.
For Butler and Marcy to view this phenomenon, they base themselves on a mountain over California's Silicon Valley. Here at the Link Observatories, they use a 300-centimeter telescope. This giant telescope can focus on stars similar to our own sun. By itself, it can't see everything these astronomers are looking for, but the team believe they're on the verge of uncovering evidence of extraterrestrial life. Astronomers Paul Butler and Jeffrey Marcy point their telescope to promising stars throughout the night, searching for new planets. The starlight gathered by the telescope is sent through a grating, which, like a prism, spreads it into a spectrum of colors. At their office, the astronomers study this spectral data. They're looking for what's called the Doppler effect, changes in the light coming from a star. When a star is attracted by a planet toward Earth, its starlight appears bluer. When the planet pulls the star away from Earth, the starlight appears more red. These black gaps, or absorption lines, are elements in the star that block areas of the light. They tell astronomers what the star is made of. They also make the Doppler shift easier to see. But proving the shift is caused by a planet requires further analysis. Butler and Marcy created a unique software to sift through the results of their studies.
We literally have invented a new way to analyze the data that allows us to measure things much more precisely than any group in the world does.
To find their first planet, their hybrid computer worked through nearly a decade of data gathered by the Link telescope, a backlog of some 60 star systems. Then, one morning in December 1995, out of the mind-numbing stream of numbers, a repeating pattern emerged, evidence of a planet.
It's like 8:30 in the morning. I almost fell off of my chair. There was nobody around because it's 8:30, it's Saturday morning, and all I could do was stare at my computer screen for about an hour. I called Jeff.
I couldn't squeeze out of him what was happening. And I just said to him finally, Paul, is it good or bad? And he said, it's good, get over here again. And when he said it was good, I knew that it was probably something really good.
I showed him the data, and his jaw hit the floor, and he knew it was a planet.
What Butler and Marcy detected was a gaseous planet 2.5 times the mass of Jupiter, orbiting the star 47 Ursa Majoris. Soon after this find, a second planet emerged, another gas giant. It was 6 times the mass of Jupiter, circling the star 70 Virginis. Theoretically, both new planets are the right distance from their stars to have water vapor in their atmospheres. Water is the essence of life as we know it. Scientists believe the chemical reactions that produced life on Earth began in a watery environment.
So our best guess is that there's going to be some layers in these planets that have a warm mist, something like the atmosphere in a sauna, in which the air is hot, maybe a little humid, water vapor dancing around.
In temperatures reaching 80 degrees Celsius, life in the sauna-like atmosphere of these planets may resemble life on Earth, somewhat like the strange creatures that thrive near hot volcanic vents on the ocean floor. This is how scientists think these aliens in the mist might look. But whether or not life exists on the new planets, it's their size that intrigues Butler and Marcy. They're like Jupiter, which astronomers say protected Earth, so life could develop.
In order for us to be here on this Earth right now having this conversation, Jupiter has to exist. And this is relevant because the sorts of planets we find right now are Jupiter-mass planets. Jupiter basically acts as a giant gravitational vacuum cleaner so that all the stuff flying around in space is being gravitationally sucked, if you will, into Jupiter.
Jupiter's gravity cleared the solar system of debris that would otherwise have crashed into Earth. On the third rock from the Sun, Earth, Intelligent life evolved through a fortunate mix of distance from the sun, chemical conditions, and biological circumstance. Scientists believe life must have happened on other such rocks with similar conditions. The pioneering finds of Paul Butler and Jeff Marcy could bring us closer to finding alien beings on other planets. Thanks to their work, we may now have concrete evidence that planets larger than Jupiter orbit distant suns in far-off solar systems, something mankind really couldn't prove until now. And where there are Jupiters, there may be Earths. These discoveries have thrown other planet seekers into action. In the Jet Propulsion Labs of NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, technicians look like they're dancing for joy. But in reality, they're hard at work on a new kind of telescope called an interferometer. When perfected early in the next century, it will be launched into space where the smallest vibration could affect its precision alignment. These men are finding ways to stabilize the setup and cancel out any vibrations. The space-based interferometer will probe deeper than ever before into neighboring solar systems, searching for planets 300 times smaller than those found by Butler and Marcy. Planets more like Earth.
And we've always wondered, are we alone? What are the forces that led to the creation of life in the universe? And it's an area where there are lots of questions and very few answers.
Charles Beichmann heads Planet Finder, part of NASA's Origins project to find other worlds.
And the goal of Origins is over the next 10 to 20 years to actually characterize the planets around other stars, find out are there other Earth-like systems, do those Earth-like planets have an atmosphere, does that atmosphere have the temperature, the density, the chemical composition to either support life, or even is there evidence for life?
At the moment, the way to find new planets is to analyze the movement of stars. The space interferometer will take things a giant step further. By interfering or cancelling out the incredibly bright light of the star, it will reveal the fainter line of any planet circling it.
And as you can see here, as we dim the spotlight, as we dim out the sun, the faint planet can be seen orbiting around the star. The light from the star itself has been rejected by the interferometer, and you can actually make out the pale blue dot of the planet.
But the big question is whether there is life on those distant worlds. Once NASA can see the planet, analysis of its light will tell them how hospitable a place it is.
And with a few spectral tracers, a few atmospheric tracers, we can find that out. Is it cold and barren like Mars? Is it a very thin atmosphere? Is it very, very hot and a runaway greenhouse like Venus? Or is it somewhere in between those two, something like our own Earth?
To get the high degree of magnification needed to find and study Earth-sized planets, a traditional mirror telescope would have to be huge, over 100 meters. That's 10 times the diameter of Earth's most powerful telescopes, like this structure at Kank in Hawaii. Such a big telescope would be cumbersome to launch into space, but with a clever mirror trick, astronomers have found the way around the problem. The interferometer uses a pair of small telescopes placed at either end of a beam as long as an American football field. As it rotates, it traces a path equal to the diameter of a huge telescope mirror, allowing it to see just as much detail. The more telescopes added to the system, the better the view of other worlds. They could be home to creatures only dreamed of in our imaginations. At Mount Palomar in California, a prototype interferometer is being tested. Michael Chow, the world's leading expert on optical interferometry, walks along one arm of the telescope. An inside look at this interferometer reveals more mirrors. From two telescopes around 100 meters apart, starlight is collected and sent to a beam switch yard, a series of precisely angled mirrors and beam splitters. These delay lines, little mirror trolleys, move back and forth to equalize the paths of the incoming light from both telescopes. The light is sent into a beam combiner through more mirrors, where the light waves interfere or cancel out. The remaining light is picked up by a detector cooled by liquid nitrogen to an unbelievable 77 degrees Kelvin or minus 176 degrees centigrade. This allows scientists to test the device in an atmosphere that mimics the freezing conditions of space.
The difference between doing this on the ground and going into space is on the ground, we can see things like Jupiter and Uranus mass planets, and in the space we would then be looking for Earth-like planets.
Space is where NASA plans to put one of these interferometers by the year 2010. Planet Finder will be fired out beyond Jupiter, where our solar system is free of obscuring dust. Until then, ground-based interferometers continue to gather data on faraway suns that might support heavy planets, building on and refining the work begun by Butler, Marcy, and others. With such brand new technology, we may someday find the home of that alien cousin we instinctively believe is out there. But their appearance could surprise us. The science of biology, however, shows that the incredible diversity of life on Earth is basically formed of the same material, carbon, which bonds readily with other elements like hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. Other planets with a mix of chemical elements similar to Earth's could give birth to life forms we'd recognize. But other worlds won't necessarily have to follow Earth's blueprints.
It's certainly possible that we're wrong, and if some clunking piece of silicon comes up to us, then that'll be enormously exciting. And we have our planet, and then speculation. And the speculation is fun, but we're trying to advance the actual scientific part of it and just decrease the realm of speculation a little bit.
For the moment, glimpsing an alien, either silicon or carbon-based, will have to wait. But scientists are patient, methodically developing the technology needed to build their case. NASA's first big goal is just finding another Earth.
And until a spacecraft the size of Belgium puts itself over New York City and really announces its presence in a very incontrovertible way, this is probably the most scientific way, or these are the most scientific ways we know about, to go out and try and find out, is there life elsewhere in the galaxy?
In the summer of 1996, the search for extraterrestrial life was given new impetus with an earth-shattering announcement about primitive life on Mars. The Mars find gave new urgency to the quest for an alien encounter. When the evidence was released, NASA's claim grabbed the headlines around the world.
Men of Earth, we of the planet Mars give you this warning. Listen.
But there were no little green men, just little worm-like structures thought to be some kind of fossilized microbes. They were found in a rock catapulted off Mars by a cosmic impact millions of years ago. It landed in Earth's freezer, Antarctica.
How do we know they're from Mars? Well, first of all, we didn't for quite some time, and this has been a controversial matter, but pretty much now the people who do study meteorites have come to agree, based on the trapped gases, their chemical analysis, that these look like they came from Mars.
A second Mars specimen, analyzed by British scientists towards the end of 1996, also indicated primitive life. This has raised all of our hopes, and for scientists whose ideas were once considered on the fringe, their work gained new respect. The Mars microbes rekindled hope of a first alien encounter.
It turns out that that's really life. That's really biology. I mean, that's fantastically significant. We have to ask one further question, which is it the same biology as ours? That is, did life start on Mars and seed Earth, or vice versa, or were we both common seed of some other source?
Jill Tarter is head of Project Phoenix, a department of SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. For nearly 2 decades, she's been tuning into the cosmos, hoping to intercept messages from other life forms. Her job is sometimes misunderstood by the public.
They think that we're just the X-Files, and that we've got alien bodies hidden in a hangar somewhere. And it's really a shame, because the science that we do, the exploration that we're undertaking, is really pretty exciting, and it's interesting.
In the remote backwoods of West Virginia, Tarter heads to the place where she listens to the galaxies at the powerful radio telescopes at Greenbank Observatory. The universe is full of noise. Gamma rays, X-rays, microwaves, light, radio, and cosmic rays. Static received through a TV antenna shows just how much are out there. Some of these specks could be remnants of the Big Bang, exploding supernovas, satellite beeps, background radiation, or a message from ET. SETI believes an alien signal would be best detected at microwave frequencies on the radio dial.
That's where the universe provides us with a very clear window. There isn't a whole lot going on at radio frequencies compared with optical, infrared, X-ray, etc. It's the quiet window on the universe, and we want to take advantage of that to listen for signals that we expect will be very faint indeed.
But even in this quiet zone, recognizing a signal is a mammoth task. Imagine listening to tens of millions of radio stations simultaneously, trying to hear one sentence or phrase of music. No human could possibly do it, let alone for 24 hours a day. To plow through the chaos for an alien signal takes a dedicated staff of technicians and powerful computers like SETI's. They sift through cosmic noise as well as pollution from man-made signals. And something like this is what they're looking for. A signal nature would not produce, sitting at one spot on the dial, the earmark of intelligence. Day and night, Project Phoenix eavesdrops on very specific places in the galaxy. Their radio telescopes search one by one through a list of 1,000 different stars thought to be like our Sun. Some of these stellar targets are the very planets found by Butler and Marcy. Phoenix tests its system by zeroing in on distant spacecraft that they know were built by an intelligent species. The probes launched from Earth in the 1970s.
And signal returns. Definitely sky-based. Wolf 336, you are howling. Oh! Ow, ow, ow! Phase 2.
Humanity's first contact with other life forms is a favorite topic of Hollywood films.
Who's still online? Green Bank? Ohio State? Mafia.
In The Arrival, shocked scientists try to confirm their contact with alien life.
Oh, come on, Mafia, you're killing me. I'm dying here. Just pick up the phone so we can confirm this.
If this were reality, Jill Tarter of SETI would also seek confirmation of any convincing signal.
If we ever get a signal that passes all our tests, it's hanging around, it's doing all the right things, I mean, we're going to call somebody on another telescope. I'll probably, if Dan's on the telescope with the Serendip system, we'll call them because they've got just the right kind of equipment.
The Dan Jill Tarter would call is Dan Wertheimer of Project Serendip in California.
Hey Jeff, can you come here a second? This is kind of an exciting signal from Jill. What's up? Look at this. They found an interesting thing at Tau Ceti.
If we were able to confirm the signal, we'd, I'd be hopping up and down. I'd be very excited.
So far, every signal Dan's group has been asked to confirm has had a logical explanation.
We get a lot of reports when meteors come flying, shooting stars come into the atmosphere. We get a lot of reports when there's satellites going across the sky. When the Skylab was coming into the atmosphere, we got a lot of people calling us.
No one has a bigger ear to the heavens than Project Serendip. They screen 168 million channels simultaneously, using the world's largest radio telescope at Arecibo, Puerto Rico. Arecibo looks like something from a James Bond film, but this is not a new set.
It's 1,000 feet in diameter. It's a big bowl, a metal bowl, and this bowl would hold 10 billion bowls of cornflakes.
But this dish collects something more important, incoming radio waves that bounce off its surface and which are then collected by a receiver high above. Arecibo scours a much bigger section of the universe than the radio telescopes of Project Phoenix. Serendip studies millions of targets, while Phoenix focus intensely on 1,000.
Don't get all excited when you see this thing. It's not a detection of an extraterrestrial, but it's a test signal, and this is one of the possible patterns that we look for.
Tarter and Wertheimer are eager for the day when they can confirm the existence of alien beings.
I love the reflections there. It's really amazing.
Though they belong to highly competitive branches of SETI, they share common theories about intelligent aliens.
It's pretty amazing, yeah.
These two agree that any galactic societies sending signals would have climbed to a much higher level of technology than we have.
Any technological civilization that we find out there is inevitably going to be much more advanced than we are. And that's simply because we're so young in an old galaxy. We've had technology for only 100 years. Our galaxy is 10 billion years old. Our own sun is only 4.5 billion years old. So there are many places where there have been stars like the sun that are far older than we are.
Tata also believes any alien communication we get today would have come from beings tens of hundreds of light years away.
The message will be old, and you won't be talking about a snappy, "Hi, how are you? I'm doing fine, how are you?" kind of conversation. But it may be communication nonetheless, even though it's only one way.
SETI scientists believe it's slightly premature to worry about the end of the world from some alien encounter.
My guess is that if we do detect a civilization, it'll be sort of by accident. They won't broadcast a signal on purpose to us, but we'll be able to detect their technological presence by some activity on their planet.
I was on a table. Next thing I knew, they were coming at me. Strange people.
SETI scientists also dismiss all reports of alien encounters. Despite a number of well-publicized abduction and UFO claims, they don't think we've ever been visited.
I'm extremely skeptical that extraterrestrials have visited Earth. There's no evidence for any of that. Although I am optimistic that there's life in the universe. I think the universe is probably teeming with life. It's kind of bizarre. Everybody reports these humanoid-looking things with 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes. But of course the extraterrestrials aren't going to look anything like that if you look at the diversity of life on Earth. And they're living on a completely different planet with different conditions, so they're not going to look anything like a humanoid kind of creature.
There's a popular notion that our first alien encounter would bring war, death, and destruction. Greg Bear is a science fiction author and advisor on space policy to 2 US presidents. He's devoted many man-hours to thinking about first contact with the aliens.
We can't consider aliens to be as dumb as they are in a lot of science fiction movies when they arrive with the Death Star and then we can send up F-14s and shoot them down. I think they're actually going to be incredibly sophisticated in ways that we are only beginning to be. Now, I've written books that are both scary and also exalting. Books that show us that the wonder out there is incredibly dangerous. There is no such thing as a safe haven. We have no beneficent creator looking down upon us, making sure that we're going to survive.
Greg cites events from our human past to explain this fear of aliens who arrive to conquer. Our history's filled with civilizations attacking each other. The entire natural world we live in is an incredible competitive arena.
What we're actually looking at is common among all social animals. Ants, for example, social animals will take slaves, they have wars with each other. We are as much a part of nature as anything else. All the forces in the galaxy follow the same pattern.
But the possibility that other beings could be hostile has not stopped scientists from attempting to communicate with them. They've sent greetings into space on the Pioneer and Voyager missions.
And they said, why don't we put a message, a graphic message? Of course, it's like throwing a bottle into an ocean 1,000,000 times bigger than the Pacific, but it's something.
Phil Morrison, a physics professor emeritus at MIT in Boston, was involved with attempts by Voyager 1 and 2 to talk to anything that might be out there.
They collected good morning greetings from 30 or 40 different languages by going to the UN, standing outside and asking people to say how they say good morning. My favorite one was some southern Chinese dialect where they said, good morning, have you had your breakfast today? I felt that was a down-to-earth situation.
Pioneer 10, launched in 1973, contained symbolic pictures, line drawings of man and woman, a depiction of our position in our galaxy. If this evidence is received by alien life forms, it will give them a basic galactic roadmap to our planet. But because these probes travel only 16 kilometers a second, it would take 50,000 years for them to reach the nearest stars, and they're not even aimed at the nearest stars. Though intentional efforts to send messages are few, we on Earth have been accidentally dumping information into the galaxy for over half a century. It's what Morrison dubbed leakage.
take a famous show of a long time ago, I think 39 or 40 years ago, I Love Lucy. That would be out there.
The early TV signals, I Love Lucy and Ed Sullivan Show, left the Earth about 50 years ago. That means they've gone out at the speed of light. They've gone out 50 light years. They've gone out to several thousand stars. So if there are civilizations on these first few thousand stars around the Earth, they may be watching our early TV shows now.
This Earth leakage is really nothing to be embarrassed about. It would be unlikely that aliens would even understand it. And to decode it, they would need the right receivers and TV sets, not to mention a thorough understanding of our languages and cultures.
And what they will probably detect, if anything, is just the existence of the signal, not what it means in any way. Very, very good thing. If they find out what it means, they might blacklist us.
Despite our potentially poor cosmic image, humans are eager for their first contact, even if it proves that we're not as advanced as we think. But this raises the concern whether the people of Earth will be properly prepared for an alien encounter.
Ships of an alien source are approaching from the sky. Radio contact has been attempted but cannot be established. Instructions are to prepare for an attack by an unknown enemy.
Some films delight in showing us how governments would panic, military forces would go into all-out defense mode, people would lose their religious faith, all because we discover a superior life form.
What scares me about locating extraterrestrial intelligences is the possibility of a culture becoming unbalanced, going psychotic. It's going to be complete chaos.
The arrival of aliens in Hollywood's version always takes Earthlings by total surprise. In reality, our first alien encounter would be likely to arrive in the form of an intercepted radio signal or an observation made by astronomers or other space scientists. But if these experts find indisputable evidence of another cosmic intelligence, Earth really isn't ready for the consequences. Space specialists like Peter Shekel emphasize the need to plan now for the problems of meeting E.T.
And I think that adequate security arrangement would have to be made. Security in terms of really security for mankind and measures of safety, of biological safety, for instance, for us and for the visitors. And we should discuss who should be the interlocutors of those extraterrestrials. Because there would also be tremendous rivalries. Everybody would like to be on the team, you know, to talk to them.
But in the United States, the government has no plan of action. The Pentagon, no protocol. The FBI and the CIA, no protocol. But the United Nations is debating what to do in the event of alien contact.
Well, I think officials would first be likely, in the event of finding out about intelligent life, to go to the scientists. And then the scientists would call up the science fiction writers.
One of the few groups thinking about future contact is SETI, the group listening to the cosmos for possible alien signals.
We've agreed, everybody that's doing this research has signed on to an agreement that the information will be shared all around the world. No information will be kept secret. But we don't have a protocol for what if we should respond, who should be able to respond for Earth, should the United Nations draft a message, or what should happen. Some people say it shouldn't be just one message that is supposed to represent all of mankind, all of Earthlings, but maybe we should just let everybody reply and let the other civilization make sense of, you know, what our Earth is like.
Scientists are seriously thinking about alien encounters as evidence mounts that something may be living out there in space. The ongoing work of SETI, the Mars discovery, the new planets found by Butler and Marcy, and NASA's plans to put interferometers into space all bring science closer to challenging the belief that humans are unique in the universe.
In our own galaxy, there are 100 billion stars. The Milky Way galaxy is probably teeming with planets, teeming with life at some level, intelligent or not. But in addition, there are at least 100 billion galaxies, each of which are more or less carbon copies of our own Milky Way galaxy. So there are a heck of a lot of chances out there for Darwinian evolution to charge ahead and eventually yield a species kind of like us.
The notion that maybe other life is forming out there, it certainly has religious implications. You know, if there's intelligent life out there, how do the major religions react to this?
Major religions are aware of the new astronomical finds. The question is whether or not they'll react as they did in the past. Butler and Marcy can count themselves lucky. There was a time in medieval Europe when their kind were imprisoned, like Galileo. A monk named Giordano Bruno was burned at the stake by the Church of Rome for suggesting there were other suns, other planets, and other beings. But today, the Vatican studies the heavens just as Bruno and Galileo did. It has its own observatories in Arizona and in Italy. This telescope is at Castel Gandolfo, the Pope's summer residence near Rome. It helped map the Milky Way before light pollution made it difficult to see the stars.
The Church should not be behind science, it should be there with science. It should be thinking along the implications of scientific results. Blessed are you, Lord God of all creation. Through your goodness we have this bread to offer, which earth has given and human hands have made.
Father George Corning is a Jesuit priest and an astronomer with the Vatican Observatory. He's excited about the discovery of new planets and about finding extraterrestrial intelligence in the future.
Should we discover the equivalent of human beings elsewhere in the universe? I don't see that it detracts from them also being an image of God. The universe itself, in the Christian tradition and the tradition of other religions, is in some sense an image of God. That though it would be a very exciting thing, it would not be a very alarming thing. I mean, I don't think it would create panic in the church or in civil society or any place else. Why should it be a threat to us? Why should our first thought be that discovering extraterrestrial life would be a threat? Why shouldn't it be a joy? Why shouldn't it contribute to our well-being?
Pope John Paul II pardoned Galileo in 1986, 300 years after he was branded a heretic for saying Earth was not the center of the universe. Father Corning believes the Church has matured over the centuries and now embraces astronomy and the possibility of other intelligent life.
Allahu Akbar.
There are as many beliefs about alien life as there are religions on Earth. Some faiths reject the possibility, while others embrace it. The Quran, the holy book of Islam, mentions the existence of other galactic beings, according to Muslim scholar Syedi Muhammad Syedi.
There is mention in the Quran that man has been created from the dust, from clay, as is mentioned in the Bible as well. But there is also mention of certain other species who are created from fire. We imagine that those who are created from fire, they may be on some other planets where the temperature is so high, and yet they live in that temperature, and that's how they have been created to live.
That could easily describe life on one of astronomers Butler and Marcy's new planets. Many Hindus, like Punduji Sri Sri Rabi Shankar, find it odd even to ask whether there are other beings.
Oh, there are life forms. In this sense, the scriptures and people in the ancient records, they say there have been 14 planets, just like Earth. And there are people on 14 Earths, similar to us.
Perhaps with the launch of NASA's Space Interferometer, one or more of those other Earths will be detected. The biggest difference between science and religion is that scientists demand tangible proof of these ideas. According to author Greg Bear, proof is also what separates science from science fiction.
I think it's very exciting that we're on the edge of discovering that there's life out there. It's not a surprise. For people who write science fiction, it's more just a confirmation of what we've known in our guts for centuries.
The evidence for primitive life on Mars, coupled with data that points out other planets in other solar systems, is the kind of proof that thrills today's scientists like Jill Tarter of SETI.
This is a fantastic time to be alive and to be a scientist. This is the first generation that's been able to do something about answering this age-old question.
In Italy, in the summer of 1996, a group of Earth's leading scientists celebrated the progress being made in the search for extraterrestrial life. But until an alien encounter truly takes place, scientists and the rest of humankind will never really know whether to rejoice or to panic. The fearsome myths about alien life still prey on our deepest insecurities, yet it's a scientist's job to boldly explore unknown territories and make them less frightening. The search goes on with all the means our current technology can offer. We continue to look for a glimpse, a whisper, a signal that other life is out there, in that unfathomable vastness called space.